it's common cause that an order was granted by default. In the propaganda world, it was said that the applicant has won the case, but there was no such thing. It was just a default judgment because we were not aware of. The MK party had to take a practical stance and kind of eat humble pie.
Over 60 undocumented migrants have been arrested during a raid at various businesses in the west of Johannesburg. The raids were led by acting City of Johannesburg Mayor Kenny Kunene and the city's law enforcement officers. 10 businesses and 4 warehouses had their electricity disconnected for having connected power illegally. One of the businesses was found to be owing the city almost 14 million in unpaid electricity. Kunene says the raids will continue.
Some of them were hiding under this material that you can't breathe just walking into that place. But they were hiding under it. Some of them were hiding in the sewage. We took them out. Mainly it was Mozambicans, Malawians, and Zimbabweans. But we also arrested 3 Chinese, 2 males and 1 female, and also 1 Pakistani. This particular place run by this Somalian owes the city 13.8 million, around there, almost 14 million rents in electricity rates and taxes.
2 former City of Cape Town mayors, Teresa Solomon and Frank van der Velde, has passed away in the past 48 hours. Solomon died last night at the age of 79, when van der Velde passed away at the weekend. Van der Velde served as a mayor from 1991 to 1993, while Solomon served from 1996 to 1998. Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis says Solomon's dedication to justice and activism, which brought about meaningful change, especially on the Cape Flats, will be remembered forever. Hill-Lewis says her legacy will continue to inspire future generations. Recapping the top story, 4 initiates have died since the start of the winter initiation season in the Eastern Cape. Provincial Traditional Affairs Department spokesperson Pilo Oliphant says all the deaths occurred at illegal initiation schools. I am Ondelambana for SFM News Headlines at 1:30.
Nelson Mandela once said, "There can be no greater gift than that of giving one's time and energy to helping others without expecting anything in return."
What's your Mandela Day game plan this year? Why not lace up those sneakers and hit the ground running at our annual Mandela Day Walk and Run on July 19th at the DP World Wanderers Stadium, Ilovo. You can walk 5Ks, run 10 and 21Ks, and still have enough energy to have fun. It's a whirlwind of fun and laughter, all for a fantastic cause. Every cent goes to support the excellent work of the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Enter on mandeladay.com or register for the virtual race on fundnation.org/Nelson Mandela. See you there.
You are listening to SFM Radio this Mandela Month.
It is in your hands now.
You are listening to The Full Circle. Bertha Charuma on SAFM.
To Ikasa and these streets. Welcome to the Full Circle with yours, truly, if I may say so. It's Bertha Charuma with you right up until 3 this afternoon and taking a look at the menu for the rest of the show. And when it comes to Tuesdays, we talk about everything that is health related. A look at South Africa's HIV response with AIDS Healthcare Foundation. We're going to be speaking to Dr. Nombuso Madonsela, Country Program Director, and just to unpack where we are at and how the numbers are looking. Are we improving in terms of prevention and in terms of infection as well? Where are we sitting in terms of stats? Also coming up on the show, hashtag stages, pages, screens, and more. Station Life Repair, new Durban novel by Ilana Braggin, and we'll be speaking to the author of Station Life Repair about the writing and also just understanding the context of what is in Station Life Repair. And then, of course, just before news, Transform's 9 million initiative to drive circular economy innovation in South Africa. We're going to be speaking to Nevo Hardus, Smartfill CEO. That is quite an insightful story there that we're going to be talking about, and also very innovative and inspiring. And if you are a young person who has been struggling to understand where you can get funding or start something, I think this could be a space where you may just get that head up. Then, second hour of the show, the Heart and Stroke Foundation South Africa highlights employee wellness. Oh, yes. Productivity gets hindered when your employees or your staff members are not healthy. We're going to be speaking to Professor Pamela Naidu, CEO of the Heart and Stroke Foundation South Africa. And then Kids Corner comes through just after the news. And the last bit of the show, last but not least, Dr. Anne-Marie will be joining us. That's CEO Hope's Vision. And we're going to be talking about groundbreaking grant, paving the way for hospital chaplaincy training and spiritual care research in South African healthcare. That's also another section I'm looking forward to engaging because I would like to also find out more in that regard. But otherwise, starting off with a look at South Africa's HIV response with AIDS Healthcare Foundation coming shortly.
Champions need motivation above and beyond winning. South Africa, show your love and support for the WAFCON defending champions by Yana. Witness the Caps Hotel Energy's Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 from 5 to 26 July 2025 on SABC Plus, S3, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
So South Africa's HIV response is at a very critical turning point, and the media plays a pivotal role in shaping national conversation. So this afternoon, we're going to be speaking to AFH to look into powerful stories of impact data-driven program results and meeting AHF's leadership, talking about possible collaborations with yourself, get early insight into upcoming plans, uncover angles that matter from policy gaps, youth-driven advocacy to how food, gender and community power intersect with public health. And to help us unpack, I've got Dr. Nombuso Madonsela, Country Program. Good afternoon and welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
And thank you so much.
And good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you so much for making time. Maybe let's start off. I always like to go back to history because then it gives us some form of perspective. You know, the history of basically the organization AFH, as well as the global vision and the impact in the fighting against HIV/AIDS.
Okay. If we go back into history, AHF Global is an organization that started during the early years of the HIV epidemic, where there was limited access to medication and even availability of treatment, as well as access to health services for HIV patients. So it started as an advocacy organization fighting for human rights and access to treatment and access to services.
And what has been the strategic plan for driving systematic changes in healthcare, especially access and equity?
So as part of our advocacy and marketing, we really try to fight for social justice to be the voices of the underprivileged or for the communities that do not have the speaking voice. We try to establish partnerships in collaboration with departments and other partners to be able to fight for social justice and access to treatment, as well as to ensure that the communities that we are serving are able to be able to gain the knowledge with regards to HIV and treatment. I think we really try to strive to make sure that our programs and ourselves as AHF meet the aspirations of the global strive to end HIV epidemic and ensure that all the communities have access to treatment, and we fight for what is just, and and resource mobilization as an organization.
We've come a long way. And I'm sure, there have been strategies that have been put in place in addressing, the epidemic scope. And we know that South Africa has the largest HIV epidemic globally. And if you look at, for instance, KwaZulu-Natal, the Eastern Cape, Gauteng, where HF operates, I'm sure you've got the stats, you've got the numbers. When we look at those stats in terms of, are we improving in terms of new infections? And also, are we improving in terms of managing it?
So if you look at the SARS prevalence study that was conducted, you can see that the prevalence rates have decreased. We have, in certain provinces, have decreased the new infections. And I think the strive for the department is really now centered on combination prevention methods, and with regards to everyone being able to access and know their HIV status, and those who are tested positive to be linked to treatment, and just to also use treatment as a prevention mechanism to make sure that those who are on treatment are suppressed and they do not reinfect other community people. But we do still have a challenge. I don't think we have reached where we would want to be. Our goal is to reduce the new infections and to make sure those who are on treatment are able to live longer. And working with the department, we strive to ensure that we have more people who know their status and are able to be treated, and we decrease the infections with the condom prevention, combination prevention with the condom use, as well as the pre-exposure prophylaxis. But we still do have pockets of once you have been on treatment, you find that our patients have treatment fatigue, and they then disengage for treatment. I think the continued communication with our communities on ensuring that we now understand that HIV is now a chronic disease, and to destigmatize HIV are still issues that we need to really advocate for and improve patient literacy in our communities.
And I know that you, the organization, AHF, is an advocate for holistic care, and you're big on also coming up with a food program, Food for Health program, which you launched. Maybe if you could elaborate on the rationale behind it and how it fits in to the whole program, where it forms synergy.
So if we look at the program holistically, we have been doing more of biomedical care that is providing medication to our clients. But our clients also have got a social aspect which impacts them being able to come to the clinic to take their medication, or even if they've collected their medication, for them to drink their medication. So what we decided to do as part of AHF is to then establish this Food for Health program, which is actually to empower our clients to be able to grow their own food and be able to sustain themselves and not drink medication on a hungry stomach. Because most of the time our patients disengage from treatment because they do not have food. They move from one place to the other because of the social determinants of health. And thus, this Food for Health was a way of empowering our communities to be able to grow their own food. I grew up with a garden at home, and we never used to buy much. If we have to buy anything to eat, it would be pap, but you know that you could eat cabbage and tomato, and it would be a staple food. So we are really encouraging our clients to grow their own food. We use we use from our own facilities patients that are already on the treatment, and we empower them on growing their own food. And when we do harvesting, we also then distribute to the other patients, especially those who have got a low BMI, who are underweight, which we would have identified. And it is a skill that we would want it to be expanded within the communities. I think in our communities, we know that we have our informal settlements, and we want to empower them that even if you have a bucket or a tire, you can be able to grow your own food and not sleep on an empty stomach such that you are unable to take your medication. And I think that is the program that we would want to expand and assist our communities to take their health into their own hands, and to also be able to sustain their families by being able to at least provide 1 or 2 meals a day.
Now, because we're talking about, the processes that you're putting in place, do you have any key indicators or metrics that you use to track your progress, to say, okay, fine, this is when we started this program, this is where we are, and the end result do you have any timelines as well in that regard?
So what we are doing is we are identifying our patients who have got low BMI within our facilities, who become beneficiaries of the harvest that we produce. We also have identified beneficiaries that would also get food vouchers. And what we are tracking is the improvement of their body mass index, and also we are looking at the retention of the clients that we have started on this food program. We have given ourselves a time period of about 5 years to be able to actually see whether we have grown within the community and within the patients that we are serving, the skills that they've developed to grow their own food, and also look at their retention and their health status with regards to the biomedical markers, which would be your BMI, and also decreased susceptibility to opportunistic infections.
And I'm speaking. Oh yes, you're saying.
Yes. What I wanted to add was that what we have also seen is that most of our clients, because they become co-infected, they also are susceptible to TB, which is the number one killer in the country. So being able to provide that nutritional support decreases the likelihood of them either acquiring or even dying from this deadly disease, which is TB. And we really would want to expand this such that our own people are able to take the initiatives to grow their own food, to feed their families, and to sustain themselves. We need to see HIV as a chronic disease and no longer a death sentence for any client who becomes infected.
Yeah. I also, I'd like to touch on, prevention measures and also just to find out where we are as a country, or what the stats look like. But before we get there, I just need to go to headlines and also opening up the lines. If you would like to maybe share your views in your area, whatever province you are from. I'm speaking to Dr. Nombuso Madonsela, Country Program Director, and we're talking about the work that they do. AFH, they look into, the impact, data-driven programs whereby they try and assist, and also just trying to find means and ways to empower communities in terms of harnessing what we've been faced with for so many years. I mean, since the 80s, HIV is not something new. It's something that we've been faced with, and we are at a stage where managing it has become a little bit more doable than previously, but also would also like to tap into wherever you are, whoever you are. Maybe if you would like to share, or maybe you totally disagree and you feel better or more can be done. And at present moment, maybe your area is not being attended to. It will be interesting to hear your views. For now, let's cross over to the news desk. When we come back, we'll continue with the conversation.
Thank you, Bertha. On the news headlines on SAFM, I am Ondelamban, and a very good day. The decision by the United States to impose a 30% tariff on select South African goods from August 1st is creating waves of uncertainty for local businesses. 4 initiates have died since the start of the winter initiation season in the Eastern Cape. Provincial Traditional Affairs Department spokesperson Pierlo Oliphant says all the deaths occurred at illegal initiation schools. And 2 former City of Cape Town mayors, Teresa Solomon and Frank van der Velde, have passed away in the past 48 hours. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
And I'm speaking to Dr. Nombuso Madonsela, Country Program Director, and we're talking about the work that they do as AFH. And also opening the lines, they are open. You can send us your voice notes on 061 410 410 or you can give us a call on 086 000 2032 if you'd like to jump onto the conversation and maybe you want to add, or maybe you want to ask, or maybe you want to share whatever it is that is happening in your community. Doc, coming to you, just before we went to the headlines, I wanted to talk about, the prevention measures beyond treatment. What are AHF's key prevention strategies that have been put in place, if there are any?
So with our prevention strategies, we have looked at the HIV prevalence and the new cases, and what we has been identified that we have our vulnerable population, which is the age group 15 to 24. So one of the programs that we are running is what we call the Girls Act. And the Girls Act is a program that is made to empower our young girls, because we understand that they are a vulnerable population. We look at our young girls. We have a cohort of young girls that we keep from the ages of 10 to 24 years old. And in each and every month we meet with these young girls. We empower them. We provide them skills. We also ensure that they know about the HIV epidemic and how to protect themselves. We are providing them also with menstrual hygiene packs, because what we have found in our country as South Africa is that menstrual hygiene can become a deal breaker, where our young girls are unable to provide hygiene packs, and they have to negotiate with what we would term other sexual partners or blessers, so that they can be able to access just a mere hygiene pack. So these are part of the programs that we have with young girls. And we have been able to even provide for school fees and for mentorship, so that we can ensure that these young girls can be resilient advocates and be able to ensure that their health comes first, and they are empowered to negotiate for safer sex, and they are also empowered to be able to grow career-wise, finish their schools, and become standard role models within the community. We also work with the department with we call it our White Youth Program, where we look at both boys and girls, and we also ensure that we are empowering them with regards to their health and also what they need to do within their social aspect, knowing that our young people are involved in sometimes unsafe sex and drug abuse. So we have modules of where we really impact knowledge on them, and we allow them to be as peers, speak about their experiences so that they can be able to learn from one another.
And then looking at 2025 focus, your focus areas, and also how the community voices can be heard, how are you going to implement that? Or is it already implemented? How are you going to go forward with that?
So what we have done in the areas that we are working in 4 provinces, we've got what we call community power voices. And there we are advocating the community within the catchment area of our facilities that we support, for them to be advocates of health and ensuring that we work with them to, one, improve patient literacy, one, to also advocate for improved services and educate the community with what we are seeing within the facilities. For an example, we have patients that still are unable to come to facilities because they are working. We've got patients that are afraid because of stigma. We've got patients that disengage because of work-related issues. Others have got gender-based violence and intimate partner violence. So we're using our power voices to be able to empower and assist them to be advocates with regards to fighting the HIV epidemic within our community.
And then who are your grant beneficiaries?
Currently, we have an HF grant, and we have grant beneficiaries in the 3 provinces, as in KZN, Eastern Cape, and Johannesburg. And we fund our MPOs that are assisting us with tracking and tracing of patients. We have a grant beneficiary in the Eastern Cape who is working with the youth program, and we have currently just closed our advert. We are trying to also get other NGOs that are working within the space of advocacy, so that we can improve also and channel the advocacy conversations within our communities.
Dr. Nombuso Madonsela, thank you so much for making time, Country Program Director. And we're taking a look at South Africa's HIV response with the AIDS Healthcare Foundation.
The Eagles of Carthage and the Phoenix both believe they are the queens of North Africa. Who are the real queens of the North? This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations, Morocco 2024. Catch the spectacular battle between Tunisia and Algeria this Thursday, 10 July at 6 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Herman Mashaba's response is so interesting, and he said, John, when I was the mayor of the city of Joburg, I fired 3 DA MACO members for corruption. The party kept them as councillors. South Africa is not going to succeed in fighting corruption for as long as we apply double standards. Corruption is
no
corruption.
Such thing. The whole country knows Ashraf. You can't trust anything Herman Mashaba says. One day, he's a flip-flopper of plastic notes. There's one politician in this country who's renowned for being a flip-flopper, who's unable to stay true to any public comment without changing it the next second. It is Herman Mashaba.
Karabo Khawkhaw, the DA national spokesperson.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM. Find the podcast at safm.co.za. Stages, pages, screens, and more on The Full Circle.
And coming up next, stages, pages, screens, and more. So we're talking about Station Life Repair, new Durban novel by Ilana Bregan, and prolific author launching a new novel this month titled Station Life Repair, focusing on intersection of lives, events, choices, circumstances of a series of characters living and working in Durban. And Ilana will actually be in conversation with Lillian Lutz, lecturer, commentator, academic and director of Jomba Contemporary Dance Experience and Flatfoot Dance Company at Ike's Books in Greyville. That will be on the 29th of July at 6 p.m. So to give you a little bit of insight, one seldom reads a book. So when we look at Station Life Repair, it is a love letter to all that is joyful about the city while not hiding the darkness, hiding in the shadows. So the story has an array of well-developed characters covering the spectrum of people you find in Durban: a wise, heroic, engaging black therapist, a white woman trying to craft authentic life choices, passionate African foreign nationals trying to assimilate themselves into the inner city life and contribute meaningfully to the adopted home, an eccentric but empathic Indian vendor at the morning market, a feisty, outspoken older woman living within Durban. So it's quite interesting when you look at the title itself, Station Life Repair. What goes through your mind can really differ. For me, it will differ from what you can actually conclude. But let me speak to the author and find out what was going through the author's mind when the author was curating this work. Ilana Bregan, good afternoon. Welcome to the show.
Hello. It's lovely to be here. Yes, Station Life Repair. So when I was looking for the title to this book, I kept on saying, no, not Station Life Repair. People are going to wonder, what is that book about? But no matter how many other titles I tried out in my head, Station Life Repair it was. And what it summons up for me is the train stops here. This is Station Life Repair. This is where you need to get off and get working and get healing and get hope, get help for whatever troubles you're carrying, for whatever past hurts and pains you're carrying. So that's really the idea behind it.
And you've written quite a number of books, and there comes a little bit, a touch of controversy. But what's interesting is tapping into the different characters that you actually find within, the province or within Durban itself, where you have a vendor, you have a therapist or a black therapist, but you tap into these characters and you really identify them as they are and as we see them.
Yeah.
Is it something that was intentional?
When I write a book, it doesn't really come from the head. It actually comes from the heart and the insides. And there's usually just so much churning in me from people that I've met, from experiences that I've had. And for me, the great thing about Durban is it really is a multicultural city. And there's so much goodwill on the streets, but so much difference in experiences and challenges. And so some of these scenarios are invented. Some of the scenarios are my personal experience and were hard things to go through. And so there's a range of the range that makes up Durban, and not all of the people in Durban have the stamp of approval of others because we come from an othering part. But I think many of us are feeling this feeling inside that enough of division, enough of exclusion. It really is time to start building bridges and connecting more with each other. And we're in an age now that allows that. We're far enough down the line. So that is the range of characters. I didn't choose them to be representative of certain groups or certain experiences. They were just the characters that were churning inside me.
And you find interest in setting opposing characters against each other, allowing circumstances to enable them to find a way to a meaningful circumstance, or enable them to find a way to connect, breaking down stereotypes in the process. And in your work, I mean, as somebody who's written over a period of time, and you've written quite a number of books, do you find that your readers also consume your work the way you envision it?
It's always hard to answer that question because I think every reader reads it very differently. But I'm a great believer in happy endings. I like things to work out for my characters, even the ones I don't like initially. But they have to walk the walk. And so in my own life, you have that neighbor that really rubs you up the wrong way, and your enemies. And then something happens in life to facilitate the fact that actually, no, you are neighbors and you are on the same path, and you just have to work it out. You have to put your grievances aside. So that's kind of how it works for me with these characters in opposition. They must walk the walk. Life demands certain things of us, and we have to grow. We can't just remain in our discomfort zones as time goes by, as the years go by.
And then in your work, I get a sense, and I'm sure quite a number of people get a sense, but also from my readings, I get a sense of empathy.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Well, this book in particular, I have a great love for South Africa, for the city of Durban, as battered as it is, because that's one of the characters in the book. The city of Durban itself is in need of life repair. And, so I do feel a strong gratitude and a strong love for the people that I encounter, the ordinary, everyday, struggling, challenged people that I pass in the streets, that I encounter in supermarkets. So I suppose, life-affirming writing for me is the only reason to write. Let somebody else write the serial killer thrillers, etc., etc. I really do like to try and work things out. And there's a character in the book called Lancelot. His mother had high hopes for him. Lancelot of old was the rescuer. He used to rescue people in distress. And this Lancelot has a great passion for this city. And he doesn't just want to be putting a Band-Aid on the wounds. So he comes up with this concept of station life repair, where people will get real empowerment and real help. And that is his dream. So that's really, I suppose, where the origins of that title came from as well, from Lancelot himself.
And you did touch on a little bit on, you say you base your writing on experiential knowledge. How do you integrate real life, like experiences, and research into your writing or into your narrative?
Well, I'm a great believer that there's no such thing as fiction. I think everything is based on experience of some kind, either your own or a friend's story or just what you've picked up from life as you've gone through it. So the writing comes from a place that is not sitting and trying to work out a plot. The writing carries you forward, and what feeds into it are all those spices and ingredients that you've stored up in your memory, and that becomes your plot and your narrative and your storyline and your characters. And then the characters take over themselves. They become their own people. And so they are not necessarily what you may have intended when you first started writing. That's how it is for me.
And tell me something out of interest. As you were penning down Station Life Repair, Did you have any theme in mind, or information was just coming through as you were penning down?
No, I have to say that this book in particular took me a long time to write. I started it many years ago in a form that I wasn't quite sure where it was going. And then what sometimes has to happen with novels is life has to catch up. So there were things about our world, about myself, that had to happen first before I really understood what it was that I was trying to write. So it wasn't a pre-planned exercise, as I said. And then each time I went back to it, I fed in more and fleshed out more. And eventually I went, okay, so that's what the book is really about.
Look, you're an award-winning writer. There are books such as The Redhead Kumalo, The Boy from the Other Side, and then The Slayer caught my eye. I don't know why it caught my eye, but it did. The Slayer of Shadows, which which came out in 1996, a fantasy realist work set in the turbulent days of the 90s. And we know that the 90s were quite turbulent, and it won the English Academy Percy Fitzpatrick Prize. That was in 2000.
Yes, it did. And that was a very controversial book, not here, because we were going through times of such challenge and such darkness, and we really needed heroes. And so I wrote that book to provide myself with a hero and a belief that hope is possible and that you can get past what we've been through. And it really resonated, for example, with a particular school in Mlazi, where the headmaster came across the book and set it for his class. And they understood what that book was about because their lives were similar. But before that, it was published in the UK and ended up in school libraries in Cornwall, where the teachers were horrified at what they saw because they didn't think it was a book for school libraries.
Yeah, that's history, I suppose. Ilana, thank you so much for making time. That's Ilana Bregan, author of Station Life Repair. And come the 29th of July at 6 p.m., you can catch her. She will be with lecturer, commentator, academic and director of Jomba. I'm talking about Lillian Lutz. And they will be, they'll be at Ike's Books in Greyville. That's 29th July at 6 p.m. Thank you so much for making time and have yourself a good one.
They both have a rich history of glory. Amakosi tackle the Porcupine Warriors.
This is as good as it gets.
This is the Toyota Cup.
The game you've been looking forward to on your football calendar.
Giants refuse to fall.
The big game.
The big game. On Saturday, 26 July at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus across the entire African continent and SABC One. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport in proud partnership with Kaizer Chiefs Football Club.
This Mandela Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit of Ubuntu, calling on all South Africans to engage, uplift, and do good for one another. Let's share what we have, lend a helping hand, and honor Madiba's legacy through kindness and action. Join SAFM as we bring you powerful conversations, inspiring stories, and voices that drive change all month long. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Feeling lucky? Play Powerball and Powerball Plus for 60 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Tuesday, and you could win big. Play Powerball for an estimated 56 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 4 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *75 #29# for USSD. Panda Pusher Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Bertha Charuma on SAFM.
And coming up next, Smart Feel. I'm going to be speaking to the CEO, Nevo Hades, transforming 9 million initiative to drive circular economy innovation in South Africa. So to transform a leading partnership between the UK, Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, Unilever and EY is empowering South Africa's circular economy with 9 million rand in grant funding and business support for 4 innovative startups. Among these recipients, Smartfield is spearheading efforts to revolutionize retail practices with sustainable solutions that tackle single-use plastic waste. And Smartfield, developed by DX in collaboration with Smollen, is an innovative, socially conscious retail solution designed to revolutionize the modern retail environment, reducing the need for single-use plastic packaging, offering a sustainable approach to dispensing food, cleaning products designed for the informal trade markets. The refill system addresses critical food safety challenges while empowering communities, which is absolutely fantastic. That reminds me, just before I came to work, I came up a clip where there was this young lady who was also collecting, your plastic bottles, and she created a system within her backyard where she was actually, she took these plastics, cleaned them up, blew them up, and then not trim, but made threads. You see the threads that we use for our brooms, our brushes and all that? And they came from used plastic bottles that she just cleaned up and then made the threads. And I thought, this is fascinating. She's going to make millions if she hasn't already. But anyway, Nevo Hades is joining us. Good afternoon and welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Bertha. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for making time. So maybe if you could just explain or elaborate or maybe break down what a Smartfill is all about before we even engage.
Sure. Yeah, so Smartfill is like an ATM for food and basic household products. We put it in spaza shops and consumers can come up. They can pay, 5 Rand for rice or 10 Rand for rice. So it's really aimed at convenience, close to people's homes, small quantity purchases, so you can just top up with the basic necessities so no one has to go hungry. And by doing that, and because we have no packaging, right? So it's an ATM, there's like a big machine, we've got a big bulk amount of rice inside it that people are just taking out in small quantities. There's no plastic packaging, we've got simplified logistics, and so we get rid of a lot of waste. We do about 10 kilograms of flexible plastic packets per spaza shop a month that we get rid of, that we avoid having to use.
So when we talk about transforming 9 million initiative to drive circular economy innovation in South Africa, what are we talking about? How does it fit in?
Sure. So Transform is a grant that has been set up by the UK Foreign Office, Unilever and EY. And its aim is to try and build up circular economy models around the world. We've actually worked with them globally in Bangladesh and in Kenya as well. So Smartfield, even though it was created in South Africa, has already been implemented in other countries too. And what they're trying to do is to get rid of all the excess plastic that are created in modern retail models. So, for example, in Bangladesh, there are sachets that they create for shampoo. So shampoo is bought in 6 milliliter sachets. And each of those sachets has 2 grams of plastic and materials which are not recyclable. And it may not seem like a lot, 2 grams at a time, but they're producing enough sachets to cover the entire surface of the earth every year. And so this becomes a really big challenge globally. And Transform is really their initiative of trying to try different models and eradicate this kind of packaging problem that we have today in the modern retail world.
So earlier on, I spoke about the 4 innovative startups. Maybe if you could just break down that for me.
Sure. So I'm not familiar with all the different startups. I know a lot about ourselves. Obviously, Smartful, we're one of these startups. Another one is Sonke. They went through an arduous process. They selected the 4 startups. And then they gave us each funding to help us promote a project and try and push that forward. So our project is really putting the dispensers into Tembisa. Our kind of vision is to see how we can make Tembisa plastic free and really kind of start revolutionizing Tembisa's environment. We've already got other brands on board. So we're working obviously with Unilever. We're working with Be Well cooking oil. We're working with Millie King. We are working, with like Big Nuts, which is a nut snack provider, which does amazingly well in those plaza shops. And the idea is to try and promote the behavior of buying without plastic bag, and we are seeing that work really, really well. We're seeing a lot of people come back day after day, so it's becoming a lot of regular purchases, and to get that behavior embedded into the communities and really grow it from there. So that's the objective. And in that, you actually get to do quite a lot of interesting things. What we found is by doing this, we actually reduce the price that consumers are buying by about 15%. So it's generally about 15% cheaper than what they can buy on the shelf, which in packaged. And a lot of employment is created within the community. So all this money kind of gets left stays within the communities instead of going out to big retailers or extensive logistics channels. So it's really beneficial. It improves things on not just plastic waste, but food safety and general affordability for the community.
And where do we find more information?
Oh, you can go to our website, which is www.smartful.store. And there you can find more information about what we're doing and how we are deploying these products.
Smartful CEO Nevo Harders chatting to us. Thank you so very much. Have yourself a great day. Bye-bye for now. Well, it's time for news with Ondela.
Thank you, Bertha. On the top stories, business sector reacts to Trump's tariffs and 4 initiative died in the Eastern Cape. For SAFM News, I am Ondela and a very good day. The decision by the United States to impose a 30% tariff on select South African goods from August 1st is creating waves of uncertainty for local businesses. However, law firm Cliff Decker Hofmeyer and auditing company Deloitte believe South African companies can navigate this challenging environment. The two companies hosted a panel discussion in Johannesburg highlighting the impact of geopolitical and geo-economic shifts on South African corporates. Nastasha Hardworth is a sector head at the law firm.
I think it's extremely timely, and I quite frankly don't think that Trump could have timed it any better, or we could have, for this very important discussion that we're having about protecting SA Inc. So I think that it's really important that companies take stock, that they accept where we are on the global stage and on this geopolitical roller coaster at the moment, and that they look at financial and legal tools to bolster their capabilities and insulate themselves from what's happening on the global stage at the moment.
Powerhouse Asian economies Japan and South Korea, who have also had tariffs imposed on them by Trump from August 1st, say they'll try to negotiate with the U.S. to soften the impact. The two countries face tariffs of 25%. They are focusing on the new 3-week window to press for an easier ride. Japan wants concessions for its large automobile industry, among other things. South Korea says it plans to intensify trade talks with the Trump administration over the coming weeks to reach a mutually beneficial result. 4 initiates have died since the start of the winter initiation season in the Eastern Cape. Provincial Traditional Affairs Department's spokesperson Pierre Oliphant says all the deaths occurred at illegal initiation schools. One was recorded in the Buffalo City Metro and the rest in the OR Tambo district. Oliphant says this is concerning and the matter has been referred to the police.
A total of 37 suspects involved in the bogus initiation schools have been arrested and 41 cases reported to the South African Police Service. We call on all communities to look at all these hoodlums who continue to steal and abduct innocent children who are not ready for initiation schools. We call on the law enforcement agencies to tighten the limb of the law on the lawbreakers.
Two former City of Cape Town mayors, Teresa Solomon and Frank van der Velde, have passed away in the past 48 hours. Solomon died last night at the age of 79, while van der Velde passed away at the weekend. Van der Velde served as a mayor in 1991 to 1993, while Solomon served from 1996 to 1998. Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis says Solomon's dedication to justice and activism, which brought about meaningful change, especially on the Cape Flats, will be remembered forever. Hill-Lewis says her legacy will continue to inspire future generations.
As a mother, activist and leader, her legacy will continue to inspire future generations. Also, to the family of Mayor Frank van der Velde, who led our city during the time of that critical transition to democracy in the very early 90s, and who welcomed Nelson Mandela and Archbishop Tutu and many other significant leaders in our young democracy to Cape Town at that time.
The Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein in the Free State has referred back to the High Court in Polokwane, Limpopo, the battle of the Bapedi kingship. The late King Victor Tulare III's mother, Queen Mother Manyaku Tulare, and his half-brother Prince Umuraomuhube Tulare are fighting to be declared acting monarchs. The throne became vacant after King Victor Tulare's death in 2021. At the time, the king had not married a candle wife or fathered an heir to the throne. Pimani Baloyi reports.
The SCA has ruled that a judge from the Limpopo division of the High Court, who has previously never presided over the Bapedi kingship matter, should hear the matter again. The judgment outlines areas of Bapedi customary ways that ought to be addressed through oral and expert evidence. These include who should form part of the Sekhukhune royal family that decides on who can act on the throne. Evidence on whether the late king's common wives and other relatives should form part of the decision makers is also expected to be heard. The court also refused to affirm the Queen Mother's recognition as acting queen.
Recapping the top story, the decision by the United States to impose a 30% tariff on select South African goods from August 1st is creating waves of uncertainty for local businesses. I am Ondulambana for SFM News Headlines at 2:30.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Copper Queens are not willing to settle for anything less than a win. But the Teranga Lionesses believe they have everything under control to roar with victory to the referee's final whistle. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the thrilling action between the West and the South. Zambia versus Senegal this Wednesday, 9 July at 5:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Living your best life on the Full Circle.
We were good, we were gold, kind of dream that can't be sold.
Bertha
We
Charuma
were right
on SAFM.
till we weren't. Built a home and watched it burn. I didn't want to leave you, I didn't want to lie. Started to cry, but then remembered I can buy myself flowers, write my name in the sand, talk to myself for hours, see things you don't understand. I can take myself dancing, and I can hold my own head. Yeah, I can love me better than you can. Can love me better, I can love made you cry, but then remembered I can buy myself flowers, write my name in the sand, talk to myself for hours, say things you don't understand. I can take myself dancing, I can hold my man, I can love me better than, I can love me better than you can.
Miley Cyrus and Flowers. Let's talk health, your heart. When was the last time you went for a check? Have you checked your wellness, your blood pressure, your, everything, just your well-being? How do you rate it at the moment? So the Heart and Stroke Foundation South Africa highlights employee wellness, encouraging employers, yes, those that employ people in the private and public sectors to prioritize the physical, mental, spiritual, emotional well-being of their employees. And it will be so sad to lose people just because we've been negligent, and being negligent meaning we have these institutions, these organizations that just do not have wellness centers where if someone falls ill, especially if you employ a lot of people, they can just dash in, get themselves checked and, get medical attention quick. But anyway, for this afternoon, we thought let's speak to Professor Pamela Naidu, CEO of the Heart and Stroke Foundation South Africa. And we want to talk about wellness and talking about also the spiritual part of it. What needs to be adopted as a holistic approach to wellness? That's the big question. Maybe you can share with us, and you would like to also share your views. You can always give us a call on 086 000 2032 or send a WhatsApp on 0614104107. So the Heart and Stroke Foundation South Africa Employee Wellness Week is the 1st to the 6th of July. This annual initiative recognizes the vital role employees play in driving business success and acknowledging the hard work and dedication they bring to their organizations every day. Partnering with and requesting the services of the foundation can actually help workplaces demonstrate their commitment to employee health and well-being. And I don't think we should just wait for July to come. This should be something that is implemented or that is always inclusive within an organization, so that you make sure productivity also is at its peak when your employees are well balanced. But let's introduce our guest, Prof. Pamela Naidu. Good to have you on the show.
Good afternoon. It's an absolute pleasure to be on the show.
And thank you for making time. So what does adopting a holistic approach to wellness look like in the workplace, for instance?
Yes, absolutely. A holistic approach, it's workplace wellness, but it's also outside of the workplace. And the reason we use the term holistic is because we don't take what we call a disease view of health. The old term of disease, it's like dis-ease, right? It's something is radically wrong. We rather use the term wellness because what contributes to one's wellness. So sometimes you're physically fit, but you're financially unsound. Or you don't have a work-life balance, or your level of spirituality is very low. So the idea of holistic approach to health is that, it's never 100% balance, but you should strive to have a balance in your physical, mental, and psychological well-being. And of course, the financial overrides all of that too.
So what would each company be required to do in order to fulfill this need?
Yes, so I do think that workplace wellness programs are absolutely critical to this holistic approach. But, it should start at the basics. So, you can't build a house without a strong foundation. So if you just, to illustrate that, like if you visualize your body being that foundation, you can't build on it if it is not physically sound. So it doesn't mean you have to be 100% without any medical condition. But whether you don't have a medical condition or whether you do, you have to know your status. So, for example, let me give you a concrete example. Like, say, if you are at risk for cardiovascular disease or heart disease or strokes because there's a familial history. And we know, for example, that there are some, let's say, 3 high risk factors that can trigger you into getting it. One is hypertension or high blood pressure. 2 is unhealthy eating and lack of exercise. And 3 would be tobacco smoking. Now, it is so important, therefore, to know your numbers, because if you're still indulging in all of those high-risk activities, then, your blood pressure is going to shoot up. It's going to lead you to premature, what we call mortality and morbidity. So you can either die from it, being unhealthy, or you could end up being a sick person for the rest of your life. So we'd like to take the prevention and health promotion approach, where if you say 40 years and over, and you go for your check, your basic vital checks, so your blood pressure, your body mass index, your glucose levels, your cholesterol levels, what are you eating, what's your diet like, do you have a generally, your uptake of, healthy behaviors is good, then you know that you are adding a good number of years to your life. Whereas if you're not self-managing that, I think the key to me or to any health practitioner is to self-manage. So you cannot just say, well, I'm going to the doctor and then I pay for that consult and I walk out and then I just take my blood pressure medication. It doesn't work like that. You have to make it conscious, but make it joyful, because it's not so burdensome. Walking in nature is not a burden. Eating healthy food is not a burden, and it's not expensive. So I think the idea is to not make excuses for what we think or what we perceive as healthy things to be very expensive. I don't really buy that argument, to be honest. There are definitely means and ways we can keep ourselves, healthy, including our families.
And then focusing on what we're talking about, it is Wellness Week. What is it? What is Employee Wellness Week, number one? Why is it so important? And why choose July?
Yes, that's actually a good question. I don't think July is kind of like an arbitrary period, really. I think if you understand the global health calendar, we tend to spread out health events globally across the year. So, for example, heart disease and strokes get September and October. And so I just think it's not to overburden certain calendar months. So July in South Africa, it's important for us because it's winter months. Now, if you look at the winter, seasonal change, we must never underestimate it, even for mental health. So, sometimes when it's gloomy and too cold and the, temperatures are down, people's moods are down, the productivity is down, they tend to overeat. You see, so it has these multiple effects. So July in South Africa, I think we must consider the winter climate, particularly if you are 40 and over, because then your heart muscles can get affected by the flu, like severe influenza and so on. You tend to move less, you tend to eat more. So you see all these parameters that contribute to heart disease and strokes. Your risk becomes higher. So that's, in my mind, is what we should be focusing on in South Africa.
Speaking to Professor Pamela Naidu, CEO of the Heart and Stroke Foundation South Africa. And we're talking about the Heart and Stroke Foundation South Africa highlighting employee wellness and encouraging employers in private and public sectors to just prioritize their employees. We'll take a break. When we come back, we continue. And if you'd like to talk to us, if you'd like to share, maybe you also just want to add, you can absolutely do so, 086 000 2032, or send a voice note on 061 410 410
My name's Kaylin Swart, goalkeeper for Banyana. Between the 3 meals of the day, my favorite is breakfast. I always have eggs. Eggs is my superpower. In the house setup, my favorite place is the chill room. I'm always in front of the TV watching something. That's only because I get so little downtime. I just want to relax on the couch and watch TV, whether it's football, cricket, rugby, you name it. We are the African champions. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Join us for this year's fundraiser, Jazz for Young People concert at the National School of the Arts on the 26th of July. This unique event, perfect for families, is a powerful celebration of youth, creativity, and community spirit. So bring the whole family to enjoy a wonderful day of world-class jazz curated by Zoe Mudicha, featuring the Parktown Girls Band, Tshwane School of Music, The Real DJ Zandi, Kutlotaro Jazz Band, and many others. Tickets are just 80 Rand and 50 Rand for kids under 12 via Quicket. Jazz for Young People is proudly brought to you by Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. Night Talk with Oliver Dixon.
When leaders need to account, we call on them. When society needs to debate, reflect, and advance, we're here to have the conversation. Join me, Oliver Dixon, on Night Talk every Monday to Thursday from 10 to 12 midnight.
Bertha Charuma on SAFM.
Well, we're talking about your wellness here. The Heart and Stroke Foundation South Africa highlighting employee wellness and encouraging employers to make sure their employees do go for checkups. So throughout the first week of July, the campaign focuses on creating awareness in both the private and public sectors about the positive impact of maintaining good health and well-being in the workplace. And I'm speaking to Professor Pamela Naidu, CEO of the Heart and Stroke Foundation South Africa. Prof, welcome back.
Oh, thank you so much.
So you touched on making sure that you do go for your checkups. You have to do, your wellness checkup every now and then. Let's come to the role of nutrition. What role does nutrition play in maintaining good health, and how does the Heartmark Food Endorsement Program support healthy eating?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. So the Heart and Stroke Foundation South Africa, our flagship program is really our nutrition science program. And within this program, we have the Heartmark program, which is scientifically based, and we've been given permission by the National Department of Health to have this endorsement logo. So essentially, when you see our Heartmark logo on a food product, it tells you that we have used the scientific criteria, including absolutely hard criteria using laboratory testing, to ensure that you've got a safe amount of salt, sugar, and bad fats in that product. Those are the three basic ones, along with the micronutrients. But we obviously in the right portion size. So, people need to also understand that if you see a whole can or something with a heart mark on it, it doesn't mean you can have the whole can in one go. You've got to proportionate that to your portion sizes and other, your greens and other nutritious food. So essentially what the heart mark does is that it takes away the hard work from the actual person, consumer, buying the product. You can read the food label. I think it's good to empower all of us to know how to read a food label. But if you take a Heartmark product and you read the food label, you'll see that the ingredients are good for you, healthy for you. And you take a product without the Heartmark, you'll see that like the salt levels are too high or the sugar levels are too high, or, there's a lot of bad or unsaturated fats in the food. So, or perhaps an oil that is not very healthy for consumption. So it's really, I think, a good guideline. It takes guesswork out of the consumer having to check, what's good and what's not good.
And why is it important to focus on cardiovascular disease risk during the winter months? I've never really focused on, the thought of winter having a much higher risk.
That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. In fact, in many countries in the world, I can't give you the exact statistic, but I am, absolutely sure that it is a challenge during the winter months where your cardiac, your heart is a muscle and your brain is tissue, but it's all part of the circulatory system. So, so there's two primary reasons really. Like if you think about yourself sitting on an aeroplane, even if it's for 2 hours or 20 hours, and you're not moving, there's a very big risk of you ending up with a cardiac problem, or having like an aneurysm. Where you have a blood clot that forms, and then it makes its way to your heart, and that's when you end up with cardiac problems, cardiac failure, heart attacks, and so on. And so it's the not being mobile is a big problem during winter. But more so because of the temperature changes, and particularly in very cold climates, the heart finds it harder to work. So you're putting more strain on your heart during the winter months. And if the heart is not pumping adequately, the good oxygenated blood, ultimately that's also going to affect your brain, the way in which your brain functions. So you need to see the body as a very holistic machine, if you like. But the heart is kind of like the center where it's responsible for that circulation of good oxygenated blood for cell rejuvenation and so on.
And then this is just slightly not too off, but it's in the same lines of health. When we look at the heart, when you have a heart attack or when you have a stroke, are there any major signs we need to be cognizant of to avoid a catastrophic situation? Like, for instance, you hear someone saying, my chest is tight on the left, and one will say, chances are you're having a heart attack, and one most probably gets chest pains on the right. Is there a difference? So maybe if you can, maybe just roughly what we need to be on the lookout for?
Yes. So two major categories of symptoms. One is that it's silent and it creeps up on you. And, that often happens with heart failure. Like you find you're short of breath, and then it's not due to old age. So like in a 2-year span, say you're 45 and I'm 47, suddenly you can't even walk up 5 steps, on a stairway, or you used to be on a treadmill in a gym, or used to play with your kids or grandkids. Those are all telltale signs, and that is excluding, of course, if you're not under severe stress or anxiety. Because sometimes anxiety can mimic a heart attack too. So that's one thing. So that could be spelling heart failure, and combined with that, you usually have comorbidity. So when you start to feel like that, you don't even realize maybe your blood pressure is way too high. You end up with sort of headaches, which is unexplained. So all those unexplained symptoms creeping up on you, you should never ignore. So that's the one category. The second more important category, because this happens and it can be quite catastrophic, where you will suddenly have the severe chest pain. It's usually the middle of the chest. It's never the left or the right. And then it's radiating pain to the left or the right. You'll find your pain in your jaw. You can't move your upper body. You may end up collapsing. You may end up with loss of consciousness. All those are what we call acute symptoms, okay? And often it happens when people, there's familial history, of course, but 80% is preventable. So even if you have 20% genetic predisposition, it means maybe the other parameters are not good enough. Like maybe you have high blood pressure, maybe not exercising enough. Maybe you have familial, what we call hypercholesterolemia. So cholesterol levels are very important for risk for cardiac disease as well. So it's all these. So when you have these severe symptoms, that's for cardiac conditions. For strokes, we have the FAST acronym, which is very simple and easy to remember. If you see you sitting, if you having a stroke, you may not know it. You won't know it. Someone looking at you will realize something's wrong with you. Therefore, the general public need to be educated about the FAST acronym. So if the stroke affects one side of the body, and if you just take the acronym, so F is for face. If you find one side of the face drooping, may not be all the symptoms, but it will be one-sided. you know you can suspect it's a stroke. And then on the same side, you'll find the person can't voluntarily keep up their arms. You ask them to open up, put your hands up. The one hand will fall down because there's no voluntary control. And then speech. People will suddenly start talking almost gibberish. If you can't understand it, it's because it affects the speech area in your brain. And then the key is not really a symptom. It's just a reminder to get that person to a medical emergency care unit on time, preferably a stroke center of excellence if you have it in the private or the public sector, but an emergency unit is also okay.
Professor Pamela Naidu, thank you for joining us. And for more information, where do we go?
Oh, please do call us, 021-422-1586. We are national. We'll give you the other officers' numbers in the other provinces. We're at head office is Cape Town, and then www.heartfoundation.co.za.
Just been speaking to CEO of the Heart and Stroke Foundation South Africa, Professor Pamela Naidu. Thank you so very much. Have yourself a good one. It's 10:30 and it's time for news.
Thank you. Bertha, on the news headlines, the International Monetary Fund says debt vulnerability in sub-Saharan Africa is mounting due to high global uncertainty, tighter global financial conditions and rising borrowing costs. The decision by the United States to impose a 30% tariff on select South African goods from August 1st is creating waves of uncertainty for local businesses. And the Polokwane municipality in Limpopo says there's a power outage at Seshego and surrounding areas. Affected areas include Hospital View, Madiba Park and Seshego Hospital. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
30 years ago, a moment united a nation. From Ellis Park to every township and village, we stood together. One people, one dream, one victory. Now, the vibration rises again. From the heart of Mzansi to every corner of the country. The four-time world champions, the mighty Springboks, take on the Azuri in a clash where history meets destiny. This is more than a match. It's a country moment, only on SABC. Celebrate the 30th anniversary of our 1995 Rugby World Cup victory. Watch South Africa versus Italy, Saturday 12 July at 4 p.m. Live on SABC2 and streaming on SABC+. Also available on SABC radio stations at 5 p.m. Download the SABC Plus app now. Switch, stream, no subscription. SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
This Mandela Month, Nelson Mandela once said,
"We have traveled a long journey. We have fought for peace and reconciliation, for social justice, for all men, women, and children."
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hello friends and welcome to our Tuesday edition of Kids Corner. Today we're diving into the wonderful world of reading for fun just because we love it. Do you enjoy reading when you're not at school? What kind of stories or books do you enjoy the most? Is there a book you've been wanting to read during the holidays? What's it about? And why does it interest you? How does reading make you feel when you're curled up at home or sitting outside in the sun? Do you like reading quietly by yourself, or do you enjoy it more when someone reads with you or even to you? Well, Let's hear from some of our friends while you share your answer with the person next to you.
Hello everybody, my name is Kosiketwa Tambani. I am 8 years old and I am from Theo Visionary Primary School. Reading is very educational and fun. It will help you a bunch when you are in the future. My favorite story is The Snow Queen because it shows you how mocking can seriously get you in trouble. When you are reading and relaxing, it feels so cool. I love it when I'm doing that. I like to read with somebody else because when they make a mistake, I can help them. And if I make a mistake, they can help me.
Hello everyone, my name is Rubuya. I am 10 years old. Yes, I do enjoy reading, but I enjoy writing the most. I love writing about how my day was. The book I have been wanting to read is The Wimpy Kid. The book is about the wimpy kid discovering the importance of being true to himself, the value of friendship, and the consequences of his actions. I don't like reading under the sun because it makes me feel tired and I prefer reading alone.
Good day, everyone. My name is Donima Komisani. I'm 11 years old. I'm in grade 5 and I go to St. Andrew's School for Girls. Sometimes I enjoy reading for fun. The kind of books I like are books with drama or action. A book I've been wanting to read during the holidays or during school is The School for Good and Evil. The book is about two girls that are best friends, Sophie and Agatha. Sophie wants to go to the school for good. Agatha just wants to stay in her hometown with Sophie. So they have a disagreement and they both end up going to the school for good and evil. Sophie, who wants to be in the school for good, goes to the school for evil. And Agatha, who wants to be at her hometown, goes to the school for good. Reading makes me feel calm and relaxed, and it makes me feel carefree. I do sometimes prefer to read alone, but I also like it when someone reads to me. Thank you. Bye. Good day, everyone. My name is Angel and I'm 9 years old. Yes, I enjoy reading. My favorite kinds of stories are animal stories and fairy tales. I really want to read Harry Potter this holiday. The book is about a young wizard, Harry Potter, and his friends who are students at Hogwarts School of Wizardry. Reading while relaxing makes me feel like I'm a part of the story. I prefer reading alone because it helps me strengthen my imagination. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Good day, everyone. My name is Kara Kumalo and I'm 10 years old. I do enjoy reading for fun. The kind of stories I like to read is comic books. The book I've always wanted to read is Matilda. Matilda is about a little curious girl who loves reading and how her parents mistreat her. It makes me feel happy because I get to learn new words in the book. I prefer reading alone because it's peaceful. Thank you for listening to me. Bye.
Good day to everyone. My name is Khabajol Gif. I'm 10 years old and I go to St. Catherine's College. Yes, I do enjoy reading for fun. I like drama stories and books. Yes, there is a book I have been wanting to read during the holidays. It is about a boy named Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Reading makes me feel like I can relax at home. I prefer reading alone because I can read to myself. Thank you for listening. Have a lovely day. Goodbye.
My name is Durezang Ndlovu and I go to Macaulay House School. I am currently reading a book called Walk Two Moons. This year, I haven't had any reading sessions at home, but I do attend a book club at school. I'd rather spend my holidays reading books, but still doing a few activities, because reading is one way that I can increase my vocabulary, while I could still spend some of my time doing fun things with my family. I think that reading every day and during the holidays for us as children is very good because there are many new words that we could learn to increase our vocabulary, which could help us in English exams.
Hi everyone, my name is Zonaka Malihas. I live at Middleland Zone 7. My school is Sumbezo Primary. I'm here to talk about benefit of reading books than staying online during the school holidays. Yes, there's a book that I'm reading at the moment. The name of the book that I'm reading is Oxford Successful English. Reading storybooks for everyone at home out loud makes me feel happy and comfortable. Yes, I prefer spending my school holidays reading storybooks because reading storybooks is fun and excitement. I think the benefit of reading books for me as a child, especially during the school holidays, can help me understand better when the school reopens. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mene Angel Ngobera. No, there is no book that I'm reading at the moment, and the last book that I read, I don't really remember the name, but it was a historical book, so it fell under the history of South Africa and the colonialism. So how often I have my reading sessions at home, I don't really read a lot. Like if I'm reading, it's either I'm bored or I have nothing to do, so that's when I'll be reading my books. So I prefer spending my school holidays doing activities and not reading. If I'm reading during school holidays, I'll only read for like 2 days and then I'll stop. And it's all because I get too distracted and I forget about what I have to do. I think that the benefits of reading books as a child during school holidays makes you know more things. You get to know some facts that you didn't know before, and it increases your knowledge.
Thank you so much, friends. It's always wonderful to hear from you. The school holidays are here, and guess what? It's the perfect time to go on adventures, meet magical characters, and visit faraway lands. It's the perfect time to go on adventures, meet magical characters, and visit faraway lands, all without leaving your home. How? By reading for fun. So tell me, do you enjoy reading just for fun? Some like books about animals or science, and others love funny stories that make them giggle. Now tell me, is there a book you've been wanting to read during the holidays? Maybe it's a book about superheroes, princesses, or a cool mystery where you have to guess what happens next. Or maybe it's a book someone gave you but you haven't had time to read until now. There's definitely something magical about curling up with a book on a cozy couch or reading outside under a tree. Books can make you feel happy, brave, curious, or even calm and relaxed. Do you prefer reading alone, or do you love when someone reads with you or to you? Well, you can read with a parent, a sibling, a grandparent, or even a friend. Reading out loud to each other helps build confidence, and you can laugh and learn together. And guess what? Reading is not only fun. It helps you learn new words, imagine big ideas, and become an even better learner when school starts again. So during this holiday, try to read a little bit every day, even just 10 minutes. You never know what magical world you'll step into next. Until next time, happy reading and keep turning those pages. That's it for today, friends. See you next time.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives. Who says talking never solves anything? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Bertha Charuma on SAFM.
And it is a warm welcome back. Groundbreaking grant paves the way for hospital chaplaincy, training and spiritual care research in South African healthcare. And I will be joined by Dr. Anne-Marie Hopperholzer, CEO Hospivision, and she'll explain to us what it is all about and how they got the grant and also the work that they do, which I find Very interesting. So a huge step towards integrating spiritual care into the South African public healthcare system has been made very possible through a significant grant awarded to them by the John Templeton Foundation. And the funding will support several initiatives such as launching the first qualification program for hospital chaplains and funding research studies in spirituality, religion and healthcare to validate the role of hospital chaplaincy in patient care, hosting international conferences on religion and spirituality in healthcare, and training academic scholars on how to do research in spirituality and health. Dr. Anne-Marie, good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Excited to talk to you.
Yes.
So take us through the work of Hospivision.
Well, Hospivision has been around since the 1990s. We started at what was then the Pretoria Academic Hospital, which is now Tshwane District Hospital, and currently we are in 6 hospitals in Gauteng and 4 in the Western Cape, all public hospitals.
And what is the role of hospital chaplaincy?
Well, at the moment we render spiritual care and emotional support to patients in public hospitals, mainly through volunteers. Chaplains are it's not something that really are across that we have in our hospitals. We don't have a training course, we don't have accredited courses for hospital chaplains. So this is all what this grant is going to enable us. We're busy developing a registered and accredited course for hospital chaplains that will kick off next year. It's a 2-year course, SACWA accredited, NQF level 5. A training course for hospital chaplains, so we're busy developing that, and then we will be able to provide trained and accredited hospital chaplains for the Department of Health.
So maybe if you could just break it down for someone who's listening to you, and I am sure they're thinking, okay, it's easy to think everyone understands the intersection of chaplaincy and spirituality in healthcare space. How does this work?
It is so important to address this. We are all body, mind and spirit. So many patients are in hospital in a spiritual crisis. And at the moment we have volunteers that's going to the patients at the bedside, just sit with them, walk with them, listen to them, just be that sounding board where we go work through problems. So many patients, for instance, would believe that they are in hospital, that become sick, they've been diagnosed with an illness, but it's because God is punishing them, or they've been bewitched, or it's through a curse. And they will never say that to the medical staff. The medical staff won't really accept that, sometimes will laugh at them or just disregard that statement. But generally we find that, and the doctors will also come to us and say that the patients don't talk to them, but they will talk to the pastor or to the volunteer who's next to the bed. So we are that link, and we are starting to be more acknowledged in the multidisciplinary team in the hospital. We go at Tshwane District Hospital and Steve Biko Hospital. We go on ward rounds sometimes with the multidisciplinary team, and we address the spiritual side of the patient.
So do you have to have a specific qualification?
Not our volunteers. We do a training course, but it's a 3-day training course that we train our volunteers and become involved with Hospivision. But that is why there is a need. They are just there next to the bed listening to the patient. We have our pastoral counsellors, a few of them, and then we, like I said, that's why it's important also to start with training the hospital chaplains to fulfill that role and to be able to do counselling and walk with the patients.
I want to delve a little bit deeper, but let's start off by talking about John Templeton Foundation in the training process and spiritual care research, because I know that if I delve into the other side, it may just take up all our time of the important stuff. And tell us more about the foundation itself.
Well, it's from the United States. It's a private foundation. So they're giving us money for all these, the training, the hospital, developing the course for the hospital chaplains. They're also funding the conference that we're going to have in October. And then also research. We've got research grants. So research is so important for us because this actually research is a field that's booming across the world. And very interesting, someone just the other day made the remark that the research is actually booming in those countries where they are moving away from religion, like the United States and Europe. And people start to realize, but wait a minute, there's something there. People without religion are not doing so well. So, and research is starting to see that link. There's a lot of research studies. For instance, people who are more religious and spiritual, they've got an increase in immune function, increased meaning and purpose in their lives, a feeling of well-being, happiness, satisfaction with life, hope and optimism. Even neuroscientists are starting to pay attention, because nowadays they can put someone in a functional MRI and they can see the difference in the brain. For instance, there's different pathways in the person that's forgiving than someone that's hosting unforgiveness and resentment. So there's a lot of research, but the main research are overseas. So we need more research in South Africa, and this is what this grant is for. So we can fund up to 200,000 rand per study if someone is doing it through a local university in South Africa in the field of spirituality and health. So that funding is available. And then we're also doing the conference in October, where we will have a research workshop on how to do research in spirituality and health. And then we also have 2 days of presentations where people come and present their research. And then we also have a workshop where we will then, after the conference, post-conference workshop, we're busy in the process of talking to the Office of the Minister of Health, Dr. Aaron Matsuledi, to come and attend that, open that workshop for us. And we are in discussions with the Department of Health to see how we can embrace it in our public health care and have that in all the spiritual support in the hospitals.
And now I'm coming back to my, it's almost like indulging a little bit, but not necessarily. You can give us a call. Maybe you would also like to share. Maybe you would like to speak to our guest. You can do that 086 000 2032, or you can send us a voice note on 061 410 4107. And I'm talking to the CEO of Hospivision, and this is something quite fascinating, integrating spiritual care into South African public healthcare system. Let's take a small break. We'll be back.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 200-gram Baker's Red Label cream biscuits. Buy any two for 38 Rand. Plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Or 400-gram Black Cat peanut butter, excluding no sugar, for 34.99 and save 15 Rand. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Price is valid until 21 July 2025. While stocks last. T's and C's apply.
The Eagles of Carthage and the Phoenix both believe they are the queens of North Africa. Who are the real queens of the North? This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the spectacular battle between Tunisia and Algeria this Thursday, 10 July at 6 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Living your best life on the Full Circle.
And in the studio, I've got Dr. Anne-Marie Opperholzer, CEO Hospivision, chatting to us about an initiative that's a little bit different, but interesting, because when you talk about spirituality, this is an old practice. It's been there for years, and then we migrated as human beings into something, where we decided let's do research, and we became, I would say, very streamlined, and we forgot about the spiritual aspect of it. Now, I wanted to ask about, is it true? I don't know how you can answer that. When someone, you highlighted, when someone is in hospital and they feel they're surrounded by sickly people, you're in a ward and you just feel a little bit, drained because there are other people that are also feeling sick. The need, you kind of like feel the need to uplift your spirits. That could actually lead to your recovery much quicker. Is it quicker to recover when you have a spiritual, guide of sorts to kind of like take you out of, that feeling of feeling drained?
Absolutely, and that is what research is showing us, is that if people have that negative beliefs, I'm abandoned by God, God is punishing me, they actually experience worse pain. They take longer to recover. So if we have that someone who can just sit with the patient, and often patients would tell us, you know what, this is the first smile I see today, if the volunteers come around and just sit with them and just talk to them, because everyone is busy and running around and they might touch the patient, but it's just with invasive procedures. No one to just sit there and hold the hand of the patient if they feel like it. So it's just that to be there, to be that someone who can support them. And through Hospivision, we also take care of body, mind and spirit. So we say if someone is hungry, feed them. If they need clothes, so we've got a clothing bank. If patients come to the hospital and they are discharged, sometimes their clothes has been damaged by whatever ended them up in hospital. At the Tshwane District Hospital, we have a soup kitchen for patients coming to the day clinic. They sometimes stand in the queue at the clinic at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then see the doctor, and they didn't have the opportunity to get something to eat. So we've got a soup kitchen there for the patients who can go there. So we really look at body, mind and spirit in supporting the patients. And in the ward, we are just there just to sit with them, talk with them. And like I said, the research is just showing just that if you have all these negative spiritual beliefs and that thoughts, it can actually hamper your physical wellness and physical recovery. But if you have the opportunity to address that, and I mean, it's not that we come in with answers. We don't have the answers.
True.
There's no answers to the question of why bad things happen to good people has been a question since mankind started.
Yes.
So, and you're very, very true with that, what you mentioned, that it has always been, spirituality in healthcare has always been interlinked. It was the first Western hospital started from the Christian faith that built the hospitals. That's always been in ancient times. The spiritual healer were also the patient, the person looking after the physical well-being of the tribe. So spirituality in health has always been linked. Until very recently, we had hospitals from the Roman Catholic Church. Still, the Roman Catholic Church is still running the hospitals in South Africa. So it's been always very closely linked. And then that divide came. And then it started to move into two different directions. But now, through research, through what we find, and that affirmation that it's really good for you to have that spiritual connection, to have a religion, that now is starting to merge the two again.
It makes a lot of sense. In South Africa, I'm not so sure, what the stats look like in terms of palliative healthcare, where, when people are in their end of life, then they have these carers. But abroad, the carers would hear so many stories and they would witness so much that is just hanging in the balance that we don't know about. And when they share, it almost looks like or feels like it's, oh my goodness, it's groundbreaking. And yet it's been happening over and over and over again, but it's just being put under the carpet and being sidelined. So do you think that is also going to be integrated into the system?
With the palliative care?
Yeah, palliative care, yes.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and palliative care is actually very forward-thinking in that regard. Palliative care has, from long ago, started to include spirituality, because that is the main question of the patients. When we can't do anything for them physically, what is going to happen after I pass away, pass on? So spirituality has been part of palliative care for quite a long time, but it's not so much part of the public health care in the hospitals.
I think let me go to the voice notes before I get too excited, because my time is running out quickly here.
Hi, Bertha. I sent a previous voice note about providing people with bread just to help them take their medication at hospitals. But yes, some spiritual help at the hospitals would also be great. Maybe they could provide both at the same time.
Oh, okay. I thought there was another voice note, but no, not at all. There we have a voice note talking about providing bread before medication.
Yes, absolutely. That is what we're doing at Tshwane District Hospital with the soup kitchen when they get the medication at the outpatient clinic. Obviously, we're not in the hospital. In the hospital, they do get their meals, but at the outpatients, yes. And then also we have our counsellors and a pastoral counsellor at the soup kitchen. So if anyone comes there for bread, and then they can see our counsellor as well. We're also close to the mortuary, so often some patients, the family of a deceased patient would come to the mortuary and they are sent to the soup kitchen where they can have a cup of soup or cup of tea and some comfort. So we definitely combine that, body, mind and spirit, yes.
And for more information, where do we go?
You can go to the Hospivision website. It's hospi, like the first part of hospital, hospivision.org.za. Our office number is 012 32 99 492. On the website they can phone the office. Can I give that number again?
Yes.
012 329 9492.
Dr. Anne-Marie Oberholzer, CEO Hospivision, chatting to us. Thank you so much for coming to the studio.
Thank you so much for
this
the
was so short.
Bertha.
It was so short.
Can't believe the time is done.
I know. Thank you so very much and have yourself a good one. Well, I suppose that wraps up the show. Thanks to my technical producers and my content producers. And if you missed the show, well, look, tomorrow is another day. Let's do it again. Ashraf is up next.
Thank you, Bertha and the team on the top stories. IMF raises alarm on debt vulnerability in sub-Saharan Africa and over 50 people killed in a